Oh, and thank you for recording that, Leslie.
I have a big sticky note on my laptop.
All right, now I'm just, again, running through this myself. Sorry. Technological difficulties this morning, folks. It's been lovely fun. Sorry. Next. Yes.
Brett, we can't see your screens right now, just FYI.
Yep. Let me get back into that and share my screen. Chrome tab, download Audacity, share. Okay, so let me know, can you see the screen? This is where you would start to get to where you need to go. So if you've got Windows,
Yes.
you would click here. Yep, all right, so I'll go ahead and click there.
I missed it.
From there, nope, missed it, okay, hold on, I'll go back. It's all right.
I got it, okay.
All right. And then from here, Audacity 2.4.2 installer.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay. All right, so back to, again, the equipment. Computer, interface, or USB, microphone, headphones, and speakers, right? That's the basics. I would definitely get familiar with your control panel or your system preferences within your computer, because that's where you're going to be troubleshooting any hardware issues that you may have, whether it is through your interface or through, the USB port in your computer, right? Okay. The other thing that I would like to talk about is your environment, right? And I'm just going to touch base on this because, again, that's kind of a home studio type of class. But essentially, you want to eliminate all flat surfaces or stop flat surfaces from bounce back. So if you've got hardwood floors, if you've got painted walls, if you've got non-popcorn ceiling, you want to make sure that you are treating that. Hey, if you please mute your phone or your sound source if you're not speaking. Can somebody please mute? I don't know who's got their phone on, but please mute. Okay. I'm going to keep going. Leslie, if you can maybe figure out who that might be, I don't know. In any event, so once you are, I'm going to stop talking for a sec to see if we can figure this out. Thank you, Leslie. Okay, so again, in treating flat surfaces, you want to make sure that there's not a place for sound to reflect off of, whether that be a wall, a ceiling, a floor. So think about treating those surfaces with, rug or egg crate, or, get creative. You don't have to be expensive. For a longest time, I've worked with in very DIY conditions. And most of the time, I still am working in DIY conditions. I don't have the money to buy a $6,000 whisper room. So do with what you got, and I guarantee you it's going to be good enough, especially for what we're talking about doing here, which is voiceover. Okay, so I got Audacity downloaded. Let me make sure I can share that with you all. Application.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So when it comes to softening sound and all that, would moving blankets work well?
Absolutely. One of my first sound booths was a trifold screen with egg crate between the moving blanket and the screen.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay, good. Because moving blankets, you can just get them at Home Depot, or whatever.
Or Harbor and Freight.
Others. Or what?
Harbor and Freight's even Harbor and Freight.
Oh, Harbor Freight is the best. Yeah, I forgot about them. I shop for all my tools and what have you there. So that's great.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So can you guys see my Audacity screen?
Yes.
Good. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So this is the screen that pops up every time that you will launch Audacity, right? You can either continue to leave this up every time it pops up, or you can always, say, don't show me this again, right? So I actually, as many times as I know, how to use Audacity, where to find certain stuff, I actually leave this up, because every now and then I'm going into Audacity and I'm thinking, how am I going to go about doing this? And don't necessarily know how. There's a lot of information within the manual that's, here, that's installed within the software or online. Usually within the forum, there's a lot of folks that have asked that question as well. So they have a forum on Audacity where there's a lot of questions and answers there. Or there's a wiki page for that, which gives you a lot of more tips and tricks, and as you can see, tutorials and plugins, right? So Audacity is a very, very powerful recording software program. Considering it's free, it's actually amazing. It will use what are called VST plugins: chorus, delay, flange, tremolo. All of these things are, actually already in Audacity, and we'll talk about those maybe at the end of class if we have time. But it does have the ability to run VST plugins, which is very powerful. You can dive into that yourself if you're interested. Okay. So Audacity is a set and forget type of system, which means that, the last time that you used it, it's going to start back at the same spot that you had left off. So meaning if you had set a certain parameter at one level or another, it's going to stay that way the next time that you open it up, right? And so that's beautiful in the sense that once you get to know kind of your voice, once you understand the type of script that you're going to be going through, then at that point, you can pretty much kind of set things and you know where they're going to be. In this class, I'll definitely be going over, the basic recording of stuff, setting up. We've already kind of started setting up your recording environment, taking a level or a sound check, doing that basic recording, doing that editing, and then getting that file ready for export or sending out to wherever it's going to go, whether it be to one of the pay-to-play sites, whether it's through email. We'll talk about all of that. Beautiful. Any questions so far? You can just pause. I know I can talk pretty fast. Okay. Awesome. So when you turn on Audacity, obviously you want to just walk in, turn things on, and start recording, right? So there's a certain thing you need, a certain kind of setup that you need to make sure that is going to be. That being, you need to make sure that your microphone and or audio interface is plugged in and turned on, powered up, before you turn on Audacity, because your computer needs to recognize that hardware first before Audacity will recognize that hardware. Okay. There are 3 microphones that you need to familiarize yourself with. The first one I'm going to call attention to is this one, right? I'm going to just kind of circle around it. Notice that when I hover over it, it says recording device. It's a beautiful thing about Audacity. If you don't know what something does, oftentimes you can just hover over it and it'll pop up what that thing, what that toggle, what that option does.
I'm sorry, I'm confused at where you are. Show me where you are again. Put your little, oh, I see. Okay, I'm sorry.
See this microphone right here, right? So there's going to be a microphone there. And again, if you need to understand what that microphone represents, you can hover over what's kind of next to it, and you'll see that it's the recording device, right? And this is where you're telling Audacity what device you want the computer to listen to, because your computer also has a microphone, but it's very, very small. It is not designed to pick up the full spectrum of audio that you need to pick up to record. So if you may have ever recorded Audacity or recorded something using your computer's microphone, maybe you hadn't changed this, you might have noticed that it sounds really small or really tinny. like you're going through a microphone, or excuse me, like you're talking through just like a phone, right? For lack of a better explanation. Really low bandwidth, low spectrum, sounds really tinny. And that's because, again, it's your computer's microphone, which is not full spectrum. And your voice is. Your voice has, a wide array of frequencies that are heard by our ears, but aren't required to necessarily be recorded or understood to understand what speech is. That's why when we talk through a telephone, the EQ sounds, really tinny, but you still understand what somebody is saying per se. Okay, so I have this set to my recording device, which is my ATR microphone, which is connected to my computer. Okay, and that's good. That's the one that I want. What I also need to familiarize myself with, along the same lines, right next to it, is the recording channel. Because we're talking about voice over work, our voices are mono, they are not stereo. So one track is all that is needed for voice. So set this to mono, right, for here, unless you're talking about setting a music bed and then it's a stereo track and that's a whole nother other. Mono track is what you need. Right next to it, you'll see this speaker icon. And well, what does that represent? I'm not sure. So let's hover it over it. That's the playback device. So this is where you're telling Audacity, I want you to play the sound back through what now? I've got various options here. I can do it through my Microsoft Sound Mapper, which is just the Microsoft Sound, which is going to end up going through, my Microsoft stuff. I can tell it to go through my ATR, my microphone, or I can tell it to go through my computer's speakers, right? So for when you are recording, you want to listen to what is being recorded in real time, not what is being put into the computer and coming back out, because there is going to be a delay, or what is known as latency. So you want to set the output to be either your microphone, or you want to set that to be your audio device or your interface device. And then you have your headphones plugged into either that audio device or that, in my instance, I have a headset jack on my microphone itself. Any questions on that?
Hey, Brett, it's Josh.
Hey.
I had a question. So I have mine set to Sound Mapper. I noticed that you did too, only because when I have the Blue Yeti Nano, and for some reason I have to keep switching back and forth between. I don't have a Nano right now, but I have to switch between the Nano and then my regular headphones. Otherwise, it just comes out my speaker on my laptop. So I don't know.
Correct. You will need to switch that every time that you are. So during recording, you'll set that to your device or your Yeti, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And then during playback, if you don't want to listen to it through your headphones, or excuse me, through your headphones, through your microphone, then you're telling it go through the computer, and then you may have like bookshelf speakers or speakers on your computer.
Okay. Just making sure.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks. You will definitely be toggling between those two when you are recording and or editing. So if it's a quick recording and editing session, say it's like a 30-second spot that's going to take you 5 minutes to record and maybe 15 minutes to edit. And that's a lot. I mean, because trust me, after you do this a few times, a 30-second spot is going to take you about 5 to 10 minutes total, maybe not including rehearsal time. So that said, again, if it's going to be a short spot, getting it done in 10 minutes, you might be able to, no problem, headset, easy, done. Let's say you're doing a audiobook that is hours long. You don't want to be on your headset for hours and hours recording and then hours and hours and hours and hours editing. Yeah. So you are going to want to have a set of speakers for editing. Right. And I would recommend, studio speakers, which are a flat response, whole nother story. bookshelf speakers start to add frequencies, which can make your sound editing slightly off depending upon the system that the listener is going to be listening on. Again, that's a whole nother, I digress. Speakers, headset, the most, your basic computer, speakers are going to be just fine. That's honestly what I use. For what we are doing here in voiceover work, you really don't need that high-end audio stuff unless you're just an audio freak or an audiophile, and that's what you want to hear. And sometimes, I am also a studio singer, songwriter, musician, so I do have that stuff. But that's because I'm doing a lot more than just voiceover work, right?
Okay.
So, yeah, you'll be switching back and forth.
All right, thank you.
Beautiful. So we are back to output. So at this time, I want it to be my device that either I'm recording to or the microphone that I am using, so that I'm hearing in real time what I am recording. Okay. So we've turned on our computer. We've turned on Audacity. We know that it is listening to the microphone that we have plugged in. We know that it is a mono recording. We know that it's going to come out the right place, and we're ready to do a level check or a sound check. If you've ever been at one of our voiceover nights, our open mic nights or pro audition or almost any of the workshops that we've ever been through, there's been a common theme to any of the times that we are recording you. Either I or Ray are always asking for, again, a level check or a sound check. And what we're doing is we want to hear the volume of your voice as you are going to read the script. And so what I mean by that, obviously, is not testing, 1, 2, is this thing on? No, we want to hear what you are going to record and at the volume that you are going to record it, so that we can set the right volume where we need to set it. So, and that's going to vary from voice to voice and from script to script. Whether you are going to be shouting, whether you are going to be whispering, whether you're going to have a combination of the two, right? Which also introduces, another interesting concept that we'll talk about. Excuse me. So, to start monitoring, we need to locate the monitoring microphone. For me, you can see that that's right here. And I'd like to point out that with Audacity, they do allow you to move all of these tool strips wherever you want them. And I could move them. I'm not going to, because I've got them set up where I like them. But if you wanted to, you can grab that, by clicking it and then just moving it. Move it to wherever you want. If you want it down over here, you want it over here, doesn't matter. And it will remember your preference. So keep that in mind. So got everything set up. We've got our script up. We're ready to start our recording. And we need to take a level check or a sound check. Do we have a question? No?
Yeah,
Okay.
we do. Sorry. Jeff wanted to know about playback devices.
I had a question about them. I have both a Blue Yeti and a dedicated audio interface. And both of those devices have dedicated headphone jacks where I can plug headphones directly into it. So what's the difference between the playback device I select on Audacity and the headphone jacks on the back of the units and the mic itself?
So what you're telling the playback device within Audacity is where you're sending that information. Are you sending it to your audio device, or are you sending it to your microphone, or are you sending it through your computer's sound? So it'll depend on where you have your headphones plugged in as to where you'll be able to listen to that audio, right? If you've got your, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, does it make a difference in the playback or the sound quality or the recording quality if you have it plugged into either the computer or the back of the Blue Yeti?
It doesn't it will not impact the sound recording quality. It will impact your playback or what you are actually listening to. For example, if I'm recording and I have my headphones plugged into my computer and I've told Audacity that I want you to play the sound that you are recording right now as I'm speaking back through the computer, then it's going to record just fine. It's going to, no problem with the quality of that recording. However, what's going to happen is that that sound is going to go into Audacity, go into your computer, be processed by your computer, and then spit out your computer's headset jack, or maybe your computer speakers, which would be bad because that would go back into your microphone, which causes a sound loop. But if it's going into your headset, you're going to have latency because it takes a few milliseconds, about 11 usually on average with most computer systems, to process that sound and then spit it back out the headset jack or the speakers or whatever it is. So that amount of latency, as you're recording and then listening back, your brain can hear something about 3 milliseconds and above. So that's going to drive your brain crazy. It's really hard when you're saying one word and you're hearing that same word right back in your ear with a 3 to 5 second, a 15 millisecond delay. So it sounds like something like, what are you doing, right? So you've got that echo effect. That'll drive you nuts when you're trying to record. So you want to, again, listen to the real-time audio, whatever's going directly into your computer at that time. So you want your headset to be plugged into either your computer, your interface device, or the USB microphone if it happens to have a headset jack on it. If you've purchased a USB microphone that does not have a headset jack on it, that can be a problem because there's nowhere for you to be able to monitor that sound as you're recording it. So most USB microphones these days, I haven't seen one that doesn't have a headset jack on it for that very reason. I would be shocked if there is, but if you do happen to have a USB microphone that does not have a headset jack on it, then you will need an interface and or a different USB microphone. Did that answer your question?
Answered mine.
Hey, perfect.
Brett,
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Excellent.
Brett?
Okay.
Brett?
Yep. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I have a question. When you're doing the, you said the level check. Besides the obvious answer, probably, I'm going to ask for a suggestion for doing the level check. My setup is I'm using my closet as a recording studio, and my microphone is in the closet, but I have my laptop on the outside of the closet because I didn't want to have any of the fan noise from my laptop in the recording.
Yep.
So is there an easier way without having to actually move the microphone out of the closet or go in the closet and record it?
Unfortunately, no. The short answer to that is no. You're gonna you'll have to take your sound check next to your computer, and then once that's done, you move your microphone back into the closet, walk back over to your computer, press record, go in your closet, walk back.
Okay.
That's how that'll work.
That was the obvious answer, of course, but I just thought maybe with your experience, you might have a different answer.
No worries.
Okay.
And there will get to a point, as I mentioned, when you are looking at a particular script and it's just going to be, obvious. It's like, all right, I know my voice. I know how loud I'm going to get. This is where I need to set my volume, right?
Okay.
So let's talk about that, because we are at that very point now where we're talking about, setting a level, right? So notice that it says right here where it says, and I'm on to, again, this microphone here, and notice when I hover over this, it says recording level. So it's This is the level of your recording that the computer is listening to. So I'm gonna click on that, and notice that as I'm speaking, that green line is dancing up to about 12. So for every recording, and this is very, very important, hear me out. Every recording, whether you are whispering or whether you are yelling, you want that to be somewhere between -6 and 0. I'm going to say that again. Whether you are whispering or whether you are yelling, this EQ level, dB meter, as they call it, needs to be between -6 and 0. I'm going to click that again. Notice that it's not up to that level. Just when I'm kind of talking here with you just like this, and I'm talking into the microphone. You can't see it, unfortunately, because again, my video is not working, but I'm talking right into my microphone, and it's not getting up to -6 to 0. So that means I need to increase the input volume for this microphone. So where's that? This microphone right here. Notice when I hover over it, it says recording volume. This is the volume that the computer is recording at. So again, you can see it's not getting up to -6. So I need to turn this up until I see, I'm going to keep talking and I'm going to keep turning it up. Now that's dancing right there between -6 and 0 every time. It's kind of just hovering in there real close. Doesn't matter what I say. Doesn't matter kind of if I get a little bit quieter, maybe a little bit louder. So it's just dancing right in that area. Now, if it goes a little bit below -6 every now and then, or periodically just because we're talking and the influence is there, that's fine. Every now and then it may slam up against 0. That's fine, as long as it's the constant, and I'm going to lower my volume here, as long as the constant is not down here below this, -12. It needs to be up between -6 and 0 every time. And the reason that is because you need to have what's called a hot signal or a strong signal so that your recordings can be manipulated and they're not too quiet. Quiet recordings can be manipulated to the point where you hear them, but when you start stretching and moving and pulling and doing stuff to audio in large ways, it starts to affect the natural sound of that recording. So you don't want to do too much to your recording. You want to do as little to that recorded data as possible, because your voice is a beautiful thing, and the subtle nuances that your voice has are awesome, and you want to try to preserve as much of that as possible. So again, whether I'm whispering or whether I'm yelling, keep in mind between -6 and 0. So what that means is, if I'm whispering, I'm going to whisper, and I'm going to get real close on the microphone. And you can see that I'm going to have to raise this up real high so that when I whisper, when I get in here and I whisper, it's still dancing. It's still dancing up between -6 and 0, right? So with whispering type of technique, or the movie trailer technique where you're using a lot of breath, you are going to be getting a lot closer to your microphone than if you're doing, a car commercial. Sunday, 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 cars on sale, that yelling thing where you're going to be back away from the microphone, maybe setting this recording volume, down lower than that. And notice I didn't do anything. And notice when it's just sitting there way up high, that it's just slamming against 0, just bang, 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 bang. You don't want that. That's too much. That causes what's called clipping to your speakers and to the recording. Again, that's a whole nother story, whole nother topic. Again, between -6 and 0. Here's the thing that I always get asked. Well, what happens if I'm going to be loud at one part and I'm going to be really soft at another? What do I do there? Then you get to do what's called working the microphone. So you get nice and tight on the microphone for the quiet parts, and you back up for the louder parts, right? So that you are still dancing in between -6 and 0 most of the time. Any questions on that? Excellent. Okay, so we've come in, we've got our level set. We know that we are going to record at that point. We're going to do this recording. And so I'm sorry, please forget, sorry I'm forgetting your name real quick, but you have the microphone in the closet, Edwin. So for you, you've put your microphone back in the closet. For other of us, maybe our microphone, I too have my microphone set about 6 feet away from my computer when I am recording so that I can reduce the fan noise. And hopefully towards the end of this class, and I think we will have that time, I'll be able to show you how you can eliminate some fan noise if you have gotten any fan noise or room noise into your recording. So hopefully we'll be able to get to that. So you've got, again, your recording level set, you're ready to record, and here's where you get to familiarize yourself with the transport or the shuttle, right? So this is like any CD tape player that you've ever seen, right? Here's the record button, the fast forward button, the reverse button, the stop button, the play button, and the pause button. What I like to point out is key shortcuts. I love key shortcuts. They're great. So notice that play is space, right? Or loop play. P is pause, or I should say shift P, right? So if you're sitting there and you're recording, you don't necessarily have to use the shuttle. You can do the keyboard shortcuts, which I love keyboard shortcuts. Okay, so we've got our level check. We're ready to record. We've got everything set up. Press record, and we're gonna walk over, and we're walking over to the microphone. Pause. The rain in Spain falls mainly on Dodger Stadium. The rain in Spain falls mainly on the plains. Okay. I did that on purpose, and I'm sure you recognize that, but we'll talk about that. Okay. So notice that this waveform is nice and big. We got nice and tall. Let's take a look at what your waveform would look like if you didn't have your volume set correct. Oh, I addended to that. Rain in Spain falls mainly on the plains. You see how tiny this waveform looks? And that's really exaggerated. Even a imperfect waveform is going to look better than that. That was really exaggerated. But do you see the difference between this waveform and this waveform? Big, big difference. This is what you want your waveform to look like, not this. If you've got this, it's usually 9 times out of 10 a level input problem, a recording level input problem, right? Whether that's on, let's say, so your level here, some microphones do have an input on the microphone itself. Like if you've got the Blue Yeti, you've got a preamp on that microphone, which works really well. So you can play with that preamp on the back of that Yeti to get your volume with what you need. You can play with it between here, right? Your recording volume, or you can play with it on the Blue Yeti itself, right? So play with those two. But again, this waveform indicates that there's usually an input volume problem. You want your waveform to look like this.
Hey, Brett, sorry to interrupt you.
Nope, go ahead.
Hey, I had a question. I see you have 2 channels open, or tracks, I should say. How did you, like I have to, every time I record something new, I end up closing and then creating a new track. How do you make it like multiple tracks like that?
Yep, so Shift R will actually start a new recording at the place where you left off. So if you want to start a new recording at the very beginning, make sure your transport's back to the very beginning, Shift R, and then you start a brand new recording.
Oh, that's nice. Nice. Okay, thank you so much.
Now the bad part is if you do that without muting. So, if I'm doing a new recording, if you don't mute these tracks, they're going to play back in your ear while you're recording.
I just found that out.
Don't want that. Yeah.
Thanks.
Mute those tracks. Don't like that track. This little X right here gets rid of it. somebody has a
Okay.
question. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So if you're recording and you hit pause, will it continue up on the same line when you unpause?
So
Or will it
yes,
create
if
a
you
new
hit
track?
no, if you hit R, so record, so R is the shortcut for record. So let's say, for example, my cursor is here. I can either hit record right here, and it's going to keep going. Or let's say I want to create a new track. If I want to create a new track right here, I can hit Shift R, and it's going to start recording right there.
And
If
then
I
you
want to
can
create a
copy
new
and paste them
track
up.
if I wanted to, yeah.
Cool.
If that was my intent, yes. But honestly, if we're talking about recording, and I'll talk about this, and you've made a mistake, and you're just trying to get things to sync up, I mean, yeah, you could do that, but I'm going to talk about that in just a hot second.
Okay.
But if you wanted to continue along that same, path of thought, if you wanted to recreate a new track at the very beginning, make sure you return your transport, right, to the very beginning, and then Shift R will start a new track. And I just hit Control Z, by the way, to undo that. I love telling people, so think of Audacity as a word processor for audio. So all of those same keyboard shortcuts that you have been using for Microsoft Word, like Control C for copy, Control V for paste, Control X for cut, Control Z for undo. Those all work in Audacity, which is a beautiful thing. Because we'll talk about that again in just a moment.
Brett, there's a question.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt. What about the normalize function? Does it introduce excessive distortion or other imperfections to the waveform when it gets amplified?
Ooh, so we're getting into advanced questions there. We'll talk about normalization if we have, that time. That is definitely a more advanced, I would say, editing function, because that's a loaded question there, Jeffrey. So thanks for asking. I hope I may have time to answer that towards the end of class. Okay, so we have recorded this track, and we've listened to it, and maybe we like it, maybe we don't. So as you just saw, what you can do, muting that track, returning your shuttle to the beginning, and Shift R, you can record now another track. And watch this as I'm playing with the recording volume. I'm going to increase it in real time, and you can see what happens to the waveform. See how that increased it there? Crazy. So you've got now this second track, and now you can listen to either one of these to decide, which track do I want to actually keep? Maybe I'm going to keep both of them. So I'm just going to mute whichever track that I'm not going to be working with. So I can mute all of those, or I can just solo, right? I can just solo this one, right? So I can either mute everything, or I can just solo the one track that I'm doing, which will automatically mute everything else. Either way. So listening to, this track, I know that, just from experience. So if we were to listen to this and I could play this back, but I'd have to do some toggling in between. Let's see if I can do it. Hold on. Let's see, just out of curiosity, if I can make it happen. Nope, it's not gonna let me do audio. Interesting. Okay, so that's okay. Hearing the audio isn't required at this point in time per se. Although you might be able to hear it through just kind of through my headset. I don't know. Maybe you can, or maybe you can't. You guys can't hear that, can you? Nope, you can't. Okay, not a problem. So I know from listening to this, and you would know from listening to this, this was the point where I was walking over to my microphone, right? So you'd hear yourself walking over, walking, and then you'd hear the rain in Spain falls mainly on Dodger Stadium.
Hey, Brett, we can't see your Audacity
Oh, you can't see Audacity again? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me make sure I get back to that. Sorry. Thank you for letting me know.
Okay.
Can you see that now?
Okay.
Thank you very much for letting me know. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Okay. So I'm going to rewind real quick. So you would know from listening to this that this would be the rain and, this is walking over to your microphone, right? So we know we don't need this. So we can just highlight this. And just like a word processor, delete it. So that is the beautiful thing, again, about digital audio, is that it's really easy to manipulate. So it doesn't matter if your microphone is right next to your computer or if your microphone is 25 feet away. Once you've got your level check, you can just walk, delete what you don't need. Okay. So this is the part that we know that is the start of what we want to, and I'm sorry, I'm going about assuming that this is what I've listened to, and I've decided this is the recording that I really like, and then I'm going to edit to send out. If I've done multiple takes and I'm just listening to multiple takes to decide, I haven't been deleted and I haven't edited really anything. I'm going to listen first before I start destructing things that I don't need to destruct. Maybe I'm going to copy and paste. Maybe I'm going to take some, a word from this here and I'm going to put it in here, which is really advanced and I don't recommend it. But that's the advantage of keeping multiple tracks, right? So again, this is the track here that I am going to keep and the track that I am going to use. However, I know that I said the rain in Spain falls mainly on Dodger Stadium. Oh, darn it, I made a mistake. I paused and then I snapped. Okay. I don't know if you guys remember that. That snap, that pause, that audible snap, and then that pause here was intentional. Digital audio is beautiful in the sense that, again, you're not running tape. You're not, imprinting on magnetic tape that is going to have to be either remagnetized or destroyed. Digital is digital. So you make a mistake, not a problem. It's going to happen. You pause, give yourself a snap, or if you happen to have a dog clicker, or if you want to clap, whatever it is, it just needs to be a really sharp noise that is going to cause it to be really short and spiky, meaning it's gonna go above that. Remember we talked about clipping? I want it to clip here. I want it to look like a clip because I want it to be really distinct. Because when I go back in and I want to edit this, I want to be able to see that edit point. I remember when I made the mistake and I said, ooh, Dodger Stadium. I didn't need to see that. I needed to say the Plains. So this is where I made the mistake. This is where I paused. This is where I snapped so that I could find that point in my recording quickly when I go back into recording. This is where I picked back up. So this is where I started again. So I know that I don't need from the point that I messed up to the point that I started my new recording. So I need to erase everything from here to here. But I need to be really careful, right? Because I need to kind of keep everything good. So I actually did that whole thing. I should have had a different script here, but that's okay. So for example, I know that I want to delete everything from here to here. So I want to get close though, because I want to make sure that the timing of my recording is preserved, right? I was talking here, and then I was supposed to say something right here, but I didn't say the right thing. So I still need to preserve all of the timing of this. So I need to make sure that I'm getting real tight on where that starts. So to do that, we're going to zoom in to that point on the audio to see where that point actually starts. So under View, Zoom, here's why I'm going to call out keystrokes again. Zoom in, Zoom in is Control 1. Zoom normal means see everything just as it normally is. Zoom Control 2. Zoom out, Control 3. Or if you want to see a certain selection, it's Control E, which is, I like to think of it as edit. I'm just going to edit that one part. So zoom in, again, is Control 1. So I want to look at this point. I want to see where that audio starts. So I'm going to do Control 1. And notice that it's just zooming in around this point here. And I can see that that audio actually starts right about there, but I want to get closer. Wow, do you see how close I got to that? Do you see how granular that gets? I can see that that starts here. The word actually starts here. So I'm going to put my cursor there, and I'm going to zoom back out. So I'm going to do Control 2. Leave my cursor right there. I didn't do anything. I didn't touch my cursor, and I haven't moved anything. And now I want to get close to here, right? Because I want to delete everything from here to here. So I'm going to do Shift, and I'm going to put my cursor right there because I want to select all of that. And that's the same thing that you would do in Microsoft Word. You put your cursor somewhere, you press Shift, and you'd press your cursor where you wanted to do that, you know, to find that point, right? So now I'm going to do Control E, right? Because I want to see just that section, and that's too much detail. So I'm going to zoom back out, Control 2. So now I want to just zoom into my last point. So it's going to zoom in, and then I'm going to scroll over so I can see exactly where that starts. And I can see that that word kind of starts here. So I'm going to hold down Shift because I'm changing the point that I originally set here. I don't want to start a new point. I need to include everything that I've done up to here. So same thing like you're in a word processor. Shift, and I'll include that. Now I'm going to zoom back out, Control 2. And now I can see that everything that's between here and here, if I hit delete, boom, it's gone. And now I've got the recording just as I need it. Any questions on that? I know I covered that's quite a bit right there.
It's Miss Leslie. 2 questions. One is the scale above the wave pattern in seconds, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
And the second one is for a bathroom break.
Yes, we can definitely do that. You guys want to do 5 or 10?
Oh, 5 is probably fine.
5 it is.
Quick
We'll see you all at
question.
11:15.
Quick question.
Yep. Yep.
To go back to normal, after you zoom in, to go back to the normal view that you had, it's Control 2?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And you can always see that if you go back in, if you want to do zoom, it'll show you, you know, what those 3 are.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Excellent. So give you 5. We'll see you all back here at 11:15, 11:16.
Brett, are you still on the line? Okay.
Hello, are we still connected?
Yes, we're taking a break.
Okay. What, 5 minutes or so?
Yep.
Okay. Hold up Audacity on my screen just to have. Let's see if I can hear them. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I picked up a pen, and I don't use the pen. Which pen? Yeah, my regular pen. Is this black?
Is Brett still on the line?
Hello?
Yep,
I think
and I got my video working.
I'll go back up to.
We see you, Brett.
Hello?
That's great.
Wanted to put a face to the face of the voice.
Oh, it's this, and there's one package. There's one coming. It's for you. You can open it.
Okay, it's 11:17.
All right.
Bring that.
All right, folks. Well, we are back and live with Audacity 101. So we've covered launching Audacity, making sure it's listening to the microphone, mono recording, where the sound is going. We've recorded a couple of tracks. We started editing one. We've removed that one part in the middle. And now we also need to remove then the front and the back side, right? So, because we don't necessarily want them to hear any of the walking back from, you know, our microphone to our computer, right? So same thing. We're going to put our cursor where we want to locate the exact point and do Control-1. We're going to find exactly where that point is. And because the recording is so short, I can just drag that to the end with my left mouse, right? Just like you would do highlighting something within text, and delete. And then Control-2 to zoom back out. You can see that it ended right there. That's perfect. And we want to do the same thing to the front side, right? So I'm going to put my cursor there, and I'm going to zoom in. So Control-1 till I can see exactly where that sound starts, and I'm going to highlight it, delete it, Control-2 to zoom back out, and now notice that there is no space between when I press play to, you know, when I press play, and you guys can't hear this, unfortunately. And Leslie, I think that there might be an issue with sharing sound because it's not, there's not an option within the Zoom that allows me to share audio, which I'm able to do using a different Zoom client within my work, my day-to-day work. So we can talk about that offline, but it doesn't make any difference for us right at this very moment in time. Visually, you can still see that the sound that is going to, you know, that your voice is going to be the very first thing that they hear and the very last thing that they hear. And keep in mind, this is only an 8-second recording, right? This is really short. And I just did that for demonstration purposes. We're going to talk a little bit more about, you know, what this longer recording looks like in just a moment. But for, again, recording demos, which is what really we're talking about, getting in and recording something for an audition. You really don't want to spend a lot of time working on that audition. You really want to just get in, record it the very best that you can, you know, as quickly as you can, edit it as quickly as you can, and then get it off. Because on either the pay-to-play sites or even the non-pay-to-play sites, you really are up against the clock and other persons who are bidding for that same job. So the quicker that you can get into, you know, that job, you know, the faster that someone is going to be able to listen to you. Now, there's other factors on those pay-to-play sites like ranking and that sort of thing. Again, another discussion, but it's still a clock. So the faster that you can get in being able to turn on your computer, get all of these settings right to how you want it, get your recording done, edited and sent off, the better. So, and you'll get to that point when, like I said, I promise you, you're going to get a script, you're going to read through it, you're going to go, oh, it's going to be about this volume for me. This is what I need my volume set at. You're going to launch your computer, turn on your software, set your volume, hit record, and away you go. It's going to happen, I promise. After 200-300 of these auditions, this is going to be like riding the bike. Okay.
Brett,
so,
excuse me.
Please. Yep.
I had a question. So I know we're just doing a short piece right now, but say you got the job and you got 30-second script and you got a 3-hour audio book. Do you edit all at one time, or do you edit as you go would be better?
I edit after all recording has been done.
Okay.
For the most part. I mean, if we're talking about an audiobook, and so here, disclaimer and caveat, I don't do audiobooks. I am not an audiobook person. That is a very, very, very disciplined art. And I would definitely take a look at Adrian Ellis, who is on Nakamoto Productions website for that type of work. Yeah, audiobook work and audiobook editing is very tedious. What I always tell people is that for every hour of recorded material, and that's finished recorded material, not recording time, finished recorded material, you're going to do 2 hours worth of editing. Keep that in mind. When you start thinking about how much you're going to be charging for your time and how much you're going to get, like, for these projects, obviously, initially, you may need to take the hit because you're new. But as you grow, and as you grow your craft, as you spend this time, this money, this investment, that's worth something. You are worth something. Don't, let that be devalued. Don't let someone come around and try to, take too much away from you. Because the moment that you devalue yourself, I promise you, they're going to devalue you just as fast, if not faster.
So I don't want to do a 3-hour audiobook on Fiverr for $5, right?
No, sir, that's probably not what you want to do. I mean, if you want to do it for experience, have at it, but I probably wouldn't do it, not myself.
Okay, so, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. So again, as an audition, you're just sending them the basic audition. You're not doing a lot of editing for them. This is just to get the job. And to that end, if I may add, if it is a short script, let's say it is just a 30-second script, and that's a complete script, I would not give them either A, the full script, or B, I would change maybe something within that script just slightly so that they can't use that recording without, hiring you for the job and paying you for the job. Obviously, the more reputable companies that are out there, the larger companies that are hiring voiceover talent for the work that they do are not doing this. Obviously, if a PepsiCo or a Coca-Cola or a KFC is hiring you to do a voiceover, they're not going to have you do an audition for them and then not pay you because there's a lot of legal repercussions that could happen for that. However, I've seen where persons do work that is, smaller in nature, smaller company in nature, give them the full script for the audition, and then not get paid for their work. So what I mean by changing something, change one small thing in that script, one number in the telephone, one number in their address, the name of a street, one small detail, but is important to the script, but not the brand name, right? You're not changing, Pepsi to Coke or vice versa to stop that brand, name thing. That would just, piss them off. But changing one small thing so that they cannot use that recording without paying you for it, right? So it's what's called watermarking without watermarking. An audio watermark is traditionally, either a beep or an audible sound, that is done throughout the entire recording so that that recording couldn't be used. However, that's really annoying to the end listener. There's easier ways to watermark or prevent your recording from being used without using that style of watermark. I know that's not part of this class, but any questions on that? Awesome. Okay, so again, this is the basic recording that we want to then now send to the employer, right? I know that I don't want this recording. I'm done with it. I'm just going to erase it. So see this little X right here? Let's get rid of that. Done. That's gone. So now all we're left with in this file, in this project, is this track that has been edited for what we want to do. We're sending just this raw track. We haven't eliminated breaths. We haven't normalized. We haven't EQ'd. We haven't compressed. We haven't done any of that in terms of, you know, what we've done to the recording. This is a raw recording. And I warn the persons who are hiring me that you are getting a raw recording. You're just going to get, you know, my voice and your script. You're not getting any editing. You're not getting breaths removed. You're not getting EQ. You're not getting any of that, because that's time. And I don't have that time. All you need to hear is my voice, the tone of my voice, the timbre of my voice, the speed at which I'm reading, and does it fit your needs? Then you hire me, we can talk about that other editing stuff. I'm not going to get into that without, you know, my time is valuable and so is yours. So this is the recording that we are going to export, right? So we've got this track. You can kind of see that it's highlighted already because it's the only track here. So we go to File, Export, and here's where you're going to tell it what type of way or what type of file that you want it to be. I will tell you that 95% of the time, 98% of the time, it's probably going to be MP3. The other 2%, it might be waveform, and that's that WAV right there. So MP3, if you're not already familiar, and I'm probably sure that you are, it is a compression or a compressed audio file. So it takes up a lot less space in terms of a file on a computer than your waveform, which is full-blown audio, 16-bit. You know, it's a lot more information that is contained within that file that's not necessary to, you know, hear the quality of your voice, which is why when you're usually sending these files for audition, it is going to be an MP3. So I'm going to go ahead and choose MP3 for now. And then it's going to bring up this dialog box. Can you guys see that dialog box?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Want to make sure you can see that. So again, I chose MP3, but you could, if you changed your mind, you could actually, you know, change your mind here and change it to something else. I would go ahead and let it at preset. The quality, go ahead and leave it at 128. That's, you know, 128, you know, you could leave it, take it up to, I would say no more than 160, maybe 192 at the highest. And the reason that I say that is because the higher the quality, the more memory that takes. So, you know, 160, that's good. Preset's good. Always leave it in joint stereo. Even though our voice is mono, we want them to hear it on their left ear and their right ear, right? So joint stereo, they'll hear exactly the same thing coming out of the right ear as the left ear. Don't worry about stereo or force export to mono. Those are other audio preferences and options that you can use for other types of sound recording. For what we're doing with voiceover, joint stereo is all you need. Here's where you name, you know, the file name and where you want to put it, right? No matter where you want to put it. So for me, and I'm just gonna kind of talk about this as a naming convention. Whenever I name my files, I name my file the exact same name as the name of the project or job that I am bidding on. So for example, if I'm being asked to submit a demo for ABC Bakery, and that's the name of the script, ABC Bakery, that's what I'm going to call it in my file. It's not going to be Brett take one February 24th, 11:28 a.m. It's going to be ABC Bakery. And here's why. Because 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road, ABC Bakery is going to call me and say, hey, Brett, man, we really loved your recording of ABC Bakery. We want to hire you. You ready? And if I had called that Brett take one February 28th, 2021, when did I submit it? Where do I find it? How do I know what to deliver? What performance do I give them? They loved me, but how do I know what I gave them? So I've got to be able to go back and listen to what I did for them so that I can give them exactly what they want now, right? So that means I need to name it exactly the same script that they're going to contact me with 6 months down the road. And I can say, oh, fabulous, thank you so much. You know, I'll listen to it. They've sent me a new script. I'm now re-recording that script for them, okay? So naming convention. Other thing I like to point out and I like to keep is I keep 2 folders, one for my auditions and one for my jobs. Reason is because I want to treat my jobs files with a little bit more hands-on. I need to find them a little bit quicker than I have to search for stuff. So I put my jobs in one folder and I put my auditions in another folder, and I don't combine. Even though I may have an audition for ABC Bakery in my audition, I will not have an audition and a job in ABC Bakery in my jobs folder. It's just me, my preference. It's the way I segment my brain. You can do it however you want, but again, I would definitely recommend naming convention-wise. Name your files whatever the employer job name is. Keep that the same. Okay, I'm going to just name this test for right now because I don't need anything. I'm going to press save. Now, this pops up every time. Metadata. If you've ever played an MP3 through either your iPod or through your car stereo or on your computer, you may notice that it displays the artist name, the track title, maybe other information that happens to be included, right? Maybe the album, maybe what track number it is, the year that that came out, type of genre, maybe comments of whoever recorded that MP3. Here's why I like to, and you know, you can take this as you want. A lot of pay-to-play sites don't allow you to include your information in an email. Here's a way that you can always make sure that your information is never lost. So let's say you're sending this recording to someone via email, and your email gets separated from the recording. How are they going to know who that is? Here's how they're going to do it. Under the metadata, fill in this information. Track title, sure, let's do this. ABC Bakery. I don't have an album title, but I'll tell you what I do have. I got an email address. I'll tell you what, I don't have a track number, but I'll tell you what I do have. I got a phone number. So now what do you think is going to happen when that recording gets played on a computer or an MP3 player? What information is going to pop up? This information. So they'll always have a way of getting in contact with you. If this were a longer recording, you'd see the computer processing this information. You know, a longer recording, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes long, will take a longer time for that to process because it's just an 8-second recording. It did that. So that recording is now sitting on my desktop, ready for me to upload to a voices.com, voices123, a Bidalgo, Elance, Voice Bunny, a Craigslist, whatever. That's your file, right? And that's the file that you're going to send off. And that's the file that they're going to hear. So let's talk now a little bit more about the lengthier recording, because I do want to address that. This was done for just, you know, demo examples of how to get in, set the level, do the basic editing. The further basic editing, because you may need or may want to remove some breaths. Let's say you want to polish your recording a little bit more. And here's where I'm gonna, this is normally where my Audacity Real Basic 101 class kind of stops, because that's all you really need to do to get your audition off to those sites. But because we've got the time, we can start to talk a little bit about more what you can do to polish this recording to make it stand out a little bit more. Before I do that, were there any other questions about what we covered up to here? Turning on the system, setting the microphone, setting here the track, whether it's mono or stereo, telling the computer where you want the sound to go, taking the level check. Yep.
I noticed that your version was 2.4.2. When newer versions come out, do you need to uninstall the old version and upload the newer version, or can we just keep the old version?
So you can keep the old version as long as you put it, I would say, in a different place, because when you Audacity downloaded the software, if you're getting it from the right place, and again, be wary of where that is. But if you are getting it through the SoundForge, group, and again, that's that link that I showed, and it's in the chat box. If you have gotten your Audacity, download through them, then when you download that, it actually knows and is smart enough to replace the files that you need to replace, so that the shortcuts kind of stay the same, and your file stays in the same place. Your folders for the projects that you've created in previous older versions of Audacity stay in the same place. So if you want to keep the old version, you need to move that old version and all its components to another location first. And that, I wouldn't necessarily get into that. If you like the version of Audacity that you've got, don't change it.
It's not a big deal.
Probably, it's not a big deal. Yeah, once you get comfortable with a certain version, I've had versions going back to 1.3 and have never had any backwards or forwards compatibility issues.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I had one question about when doing the export. We click on the MP3 and it brings up the pop-up box. The quality, you said to keep it at a certain level. Mine defaults to like preset and it gives me a range. Would it be better to do that, or go to average and choose a specific number, or which?
I would say keep it at preset and just do standard 170 to 210.
Okay. And below that, variable speed, leave it at fast or standard?
Let me go back, make sure I'm giving you the right. Fast, keep it at fast, that's fine.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Yeah, fast is not a problem. If you were doing like insane 320, I would do standard, because then it's processing. What you're telling the processor to do is how quickly you want it to process that material. Since it's a really small amount, fast is fine. If you're talking about an audiobook, I would definitely say standard. Let it do its thing in standard. Short stuff, fast is fine. Okay, so let's say that, so moving on, we've gotten to the point where we know how we can do these basic, recordings, get them off, send them for audition. Let's now look at three things. I want to talk about breath removal, actually 4 things. I'm going to talk about breath removal. I will address compression, equalization, and normalization. Okay, breath removal. So and I know this isn't a breath, but let's assume between here and here that there's a breath, right? And I want to make sure that that's removed, or at least the breath is removed. So I'm going to put my cursor kind of where the word looks like it's going to end, because I want the word, the complete word, to be captured. So I'm going to zoom in on that. Oh, geez, thanks, Brett. Go back, Control 1. And I can see that it actually ends here. So I'm going to put my cursor here. And then we're just going to, I can see, again, we're assuming that this is our breath. I know there's not a breath here. You'd see it. You'd listen to it and you'd hear it. Let's just assume again that this is a breath. So I'm going to highlight that whole breath to the point where that word starts. I can see that that's where that word starts. Now, instead of deleting that space, because I don't want to delete that, because if I were to delete that, it would start to mess with the timing of that sentence. You know, how closely this word, you know, this word was to this word, right? I don't want this word to be any closer to this word. I just want to remove the breath. So I've highlighted the breath, and then I'm going to go up and generate silence. Do not worry about the duration. All it's telling you is how many samples or what length this is in samples. Don't worry about it. You've already highlighted it. You've defined it. That's the length that you need. You could start to manipulate this if you wanted to. I wouldn't recommend it. Do it here and then just click OK and then watch what happens. You see how it erased everything? I'm going to press Control Z. See how I put those points back in? So generate silence, pulls up that dialog box, just click OK. And notice that it just leaves a flat line there. And that's what we want. Because if I were to, again, delete this, I'd be moving this whole section this much closer. And you don't want that. Because that is going to start messing with, again, the timing of your sentence. So find the breath you want to remove. Highlight the breath. Generate silence. Okay. All right. Next thing, let's talk about ways that you can make your recording sparkle a little bit, stand out a little bit, right? There are 3 things that I do in this order: equalization, compression, normalization, in that order. Now, the things that I'm going to do through equalization, compression, normalization are very subtle. I'm not looking to change things drastically. I just want to make a few things sparkle. So again, equalization. So I'm going to highlight everything. So that means double click or, you know, click on, you know, however you want to highlight. It's the same thing. I could do this. I can drag and collect, you know, I could double click, whatever you want to do to highlight everything, right?
Control
and
A.
The things that we're going to do, Control A, absolutely. That'll do it too. So once that's done, effect, equalization. Oh, you changed it. I love it when they change things. Filter EQ, is that the one? Yeah, so filter, curve EQ. Let me do that again. So effect, filter, curve, EQ, right? Okay. I'm going to start talking about frequencies, and I don't want to dive too deep, but just know that I know what I'm kind of talking about when it comes to making these things work. So our voices, we don't have a ton of low end on our voice. So we can get rid of the frequencies below 30 hertz. It's not going to affect your recording. So you put a dot right here at 30, grab the other end, drag it down, and notice that it kind of puts I don't know if you guys can see that faint green line, but it's going to roll off those frequencies starting off at 30 hertz. Same thing at about, here, 12, 13. You really don't have a lot of information in your voice, in voiceover, that you need. So let's take that out so it's the ears of the person that's listening doesn't have to listen to it. So I put a little dot, right about there. It doesn't have to be precise. Drag that off. Okay. Next thing I do, our consonants our, the oh, ooh, ow, that's at about 5,000 hertz. So I want to put a little tiny bump at 5,000 so that my consonants kind of stand out in the frequency range, because it's going to make my recording more clear. They're going to hear my words a little more clearly. So I'm going to put a little dot right at 5. I'm going to put a little dot right before 5. I'm going to put a little dot right above 5. And then I'm going to raise that dot at 5 by just a tiny bit, literally just about 1 decibel. That's it. I don't want to do any more than that. I want to leave it just really about there. I don't want to change things too much there, right? So from there, I've got a bump at 5. Our sibilants, our ch, that happens at about 10,000. So let's do the same thing at 10. Let's put a little bump at 10,000. Raise that just a tiny bit. So now I've rolled off my top end, I've rolled off my bottom end, I've highlighted my consonants and my sibilants. And now I want to be able to keep this curve. I like this curve and I want to use it again sometime. So click manage, right? We're going to save the preset. And I'm going to name this Brett's curve, just so I know what it is every time the next time I want to come back to it.
Can we recap
So now,
those last 2 little bumps real quick? I had troubles figuring out how to get that line to go down on both ends at first.
Absolutely. So we want to put a bump at 5,000. So we put a dot. Here, let me start. I'm going to flatten this curve again. So we started with rolling off the top end. We started with rolling off, then we went to rolling off the, bottom end and then the top end. Then we put a bump at 5,000 hertz. So put a little dot at 5, dot just below, dot just above, grab the center dot at 5 and raise that a tiny bit. Same thing at 10. Put a dot at 10, 1 dot below, 1 dot above, grab the one at 10 and raise it a tiny bit. Good. When I want to save that, it would be manage, save the preset. I've already got this saved, so I've got Brett's curve right here, so I'm gonna pull that up. There it is. So the next time I want to use this frequency, so I've got my, let's say I'm on to my next project. It's 2 weeks later. I've created Brett's curve already. This is what I've recorded. This is when I'm editing. I go in here to Effect, Filter E Curve. See, it's in the last state because that's what I had the last time. So here it is. Let's just say for example, this is what it pulled up. I can pull Manage, User Presets, Brett's curve, and there it is. So it's always there when you need it. Click OK. And notice that it really doesn't do much. You're not going to see a lot of changes in your recording, the visual of that recording. It's not going to change much. So leave everything highlighted, right? So we just changed the EQ. Next, we're going to compress. So everything is still highlighted. Effect, compressor. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about compression, but think of it as a fire nozzle. So taking a lot of information and squeezing it down and making it really powerful and concise and tight. That's what a compressor basically does. I don't want to go too much further than that because there's a lot of other stuff that compression we can talk about the math behind it, but that's a really deep subject. Just think of it as a fire nozzle. You're taking you're taking all of this great sound and you're kind of compacting it, making it really tight so that now they're hearing just that nice, tight, powerful sound. All the frequencies are still there, but you're making it nice and tight. That's compression. Start, the only thing that you're going to change is the ratio. Do not mess with threshold, noise, floor, attack time, release time. Don't worry about it. It's just not worth your time, nor my time right now. It's a much longer discussion. Start off at 2 to 1. everybody's voice and the compression as it affects their voice is going to be different. So start off at 2 to 1 and play with it. So 2 to 1, click OK, or you can even click preview. If you click preview, you'll hear a preview of what this is. It's really short, so it's not gonna, well, you won't hear it because the sound isn't there, but you would hear it if you're at home doing this. Start off at 2 to 1, click OK. Notice that did start to change things a little bit. That's fine. It's still not pushing anything too high or letting things go too low. So this is fine. If you listen to this and you decide that that's too much compression, you can see, I'm gonna do Control Z and watch what happens as the sound, the waveform reverts back, right? Let's say you decide that that was too much compression. So go in back into compression and then drop the ratio, or you decide that it's not enough. So you're gonna move this ratio up, and it's in increments of tenths. So 2.1 to 1, 2.2 to 1, 2.3 to 1, so forth. You will never go above 4 to 1. Above 4 to 1, it's really going to start to sound unnatural. So I would not recommend it, even though maybe, you know, it might be a cool effect. Unless you're doing it for effect, I wouldn't recommend above 4 to 1. So somewhere between 2.1 to 1, excuse me, 2.2 to 1 to 4 to 1 is where you're going to leave that. Excuse me. And you'll have to decide kind of just what that is for your voice and the recording that you do. I can't say much more about that. All right, compression's done. Normalization. So normalization is what will take a recording and it makes things just, how do I say this? It makes things average so that the high isn't too high, too loud, and the low isn't too low, too quiet. So what it does, normalization looks at your recording, looks at your highest point, your lowest point, kind of averages things out and brings things to the same, to a, about a nice average, a nice normalization, right? So again, everything is highlighted. Effect, normalization. Don't change anything. Leave this here. Remove DC offset. Normalize peak amplitude to -1. Don't normalize. This is how it pops up. Don't change anything. Leave that everything as it is. That's the perfect normalization setting. And notice that it kind of brought things kind of back down. So again, it brings quiet up, loud down, so everything's kind of averaged. It doesn't change too much the audio per se. But again, these 3 little things that you can do will make your recording stand out just a little bit more than the other person who just happens to have a credit card but doesn't know how to use this software. Same process from here if you want to export as we did before, right? File, export, etc. I have covered a lot of material today. What questions do you guys have?
I have a question, Brett.
Yeah.
When you're like, say you got the job and it's a 30-second script, and so you're editing and stuff, and you take some stuff out, and now it's 28 seconds or whatever. Are they going to monitor that close to exactly 30 seconds, or can it be longer or shorter?
Probably not. I'd say within 2 seconds, you're probably okay.
Okay.
Much less than that, yeah, I would probably, re-record it, or, talk about playing with inserting some silence, some space in between. But see, the problem with when you start to insert space in between words, you start to mess with the timing, right? How you delivered that the first time.
Okay. Thank you.
What other questions could I answer for you guys?
The normalization that you just did you make any adjustments, or you just left it pretty much the way it was?
I left it just as it is.
Okay.
Yep. I didn't make any change at all.
Thanks.
I don't see Filter Curve EQ on my list of plugins. Is there a download you can get for that, or is that part of the normal package and I just missed it?
Next question would be, what version of Audacity are you running?
2.4.2.
Okay, so there should be under Effect, Filter, Curve, EQ. It is in alphabetical order, so it should be right just above Graphic EQ.
Huh. I might have
Right below Fade Out. Yeah, because I just downloaded it this morning and it's got it all right there. Now, noise reduction, will that help with like background noise, your little fan going or anything like that on your computer?
In the remaining moments, yes, I will show you what noise reduction does. So if you do have a constant fan or maybe an AC in the background, to get rid of that, you will do noise reduction. So for noise reduction, you need to mute your original track. You need to then get a sample of what is called room tone. So you need to understand what sound does a room make, which is, that's the sound that the room makes when there's nobody else generating noise. It's the constant noise that happens within the room. So mute your original track, right? Get the sound profile of the room. So I'm going to press Shift R and I'm going to be quiet for a second. Okay, this right here is the sound of my room. This is the sound that I want to take out of this recording. So I'm going to tell the computer, I'm going to tell Audacity what that room tone is. So Effect, Noise Reduction. With this highlighted, get Noise Profile. That's done. Go back, highlight the audio that you want to remove the room tone from, highlight it. Effect, Noise Reduction, click OK.
Awesome. Thank you.
That will remove the background fans. It will not take care of like a airplane that flies overhead. It will not take care of a barking dog. You know, it doesn't take care of the random stuff. It takes care of the constant stuff.
Could you run through that once more, please? That was
Yep.
very clever.
Yep. So noise reduction. You tell the software what the room sounds like. And by doing that, I'm going to redo it here. So I'm going to mute this. I'm going to take a sound of the room. So 5 seconds of what we would think of as silence. We might think of that was silent. There's actually a lot of information there. Highlight that, at least 5 seconds of it. If you've got more, that's fine. If you have more than 5 seconds, that's fine. 5 seconds is enough to train Audacity what noise you want to remove. So highlight the noise, Effect, Noise Reduction, get Noise Profile. You've now told Audacity what noise you're going to remove from whatever recording you want to remove it from. Now you're going to highlight the recording that you want to remove that from, Effect, Noise Reduction, OK. We started diving into definitely Audacity 102 here, folks.
Hey, Brett, those YouTube videos, they help a lot too, don't they?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's tons of information out there. Like I said, there's, YouTube videos that, show you the basics. There's beyond that, the VST plugins that I was talking about. If you start to get into, editing your own audio for commercials or for friends, and you want to start adding music beds, this is a very, very powerful audio recording software program for free. It can do it. And yes, there is a ton of information out there. What I've covered today is going to get you through everything up through, I would say, audiobooks, right? Audiobooks is another beast. 30-second up through 5-minute recordings, which is usually your average stuff, for what you're doing, short webinars, short commercials, maybe introductions to podcasts, something like that. They're not real long, 1, 2, 3 minutes maybe. So everything that I've taught you today is going to get you into that market, no problem. You will be able to handle anything thrown your way in that range.
And be careful with those online ones. That's what really started me feeling like an idiot. The guy started with noise reduction and didn't say you had to record your stuff first, and then the noise reduction is like one of your final steps. And that's where I started getting really confused. So thank you.
Thanks, Brett.
Brett, there's one question asking about repeating the breath editing polish.
Yep. So,
Thank you.
and I'm just going to use one of these words. Let's say this word is a breath. It's not, it's a word. I know it's a word. I would normally keep it in my recording. Let's call it a breath. That's a big ass, oh, excuse me, that's a big breath that I need to remove. So I'm going to highlight what I want to remove as a breath. And I'm not going to go too much into details about getting down into the granular view. Again, that's Control 1 to zoom in, Control 2 back out, Control 3, etc., or the view and getting in. Again, let's just say that's the breath. I've defined that effect, right? Oh, excuse me, please excuse me. Highlight that area, generate silence. Don't worry about this duration. It's automatically defined by what you set up here, and then click OK. Notice that it just made it silent. It didn't delete that, right? If I had deleted this, let's just say I wanted to remove this and I thought I wanted to delete it. Do you see how that moves that whole thing to the left? You don't want to move your sentence to the left. It changes the timing. I want to generate silence there so that the breath is removed, but the timing stays the same.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Can we start from the beginning?
Not today.
Not today, right? Exactly. Well, hey, thank
appreciate
you all
your help,
again
Brett.
very much for your patience with my technological difficulties this morning. Thank you. I really appreciate the patience and understanding. If you do have further questions, you know, if it's anything that we've covered on this class, feel free, ping me on email, which is always a good way to reach me, Brett Beauchamp Russell @gmail.com. I'm happy to answer, you know, your questions if you're not able to find the answers to them.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank you, Brett. It's great.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
All right. Hey guys, thank you very much. Thanks for supporting Leslie and Sarda and Nakamoto Productions. We'll see you all again at our next webinar.
Thank
or
you.
Thank you,
email.
Brett.
Brett, can you stay on the line for a second? I have a question for you.
Yep.
It's Leslie.